hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
You're an enemy combatant of the United States of the New Globe. I will not read you your rights. You don't have any rights. You will be detained indefinitely. Say goodbye to life as you know it. Say goodbye.
And welcome to Waking Up the Masses, right here on truthfrequencyradio.com. I am your host, Robert Bruce. Hey, man. Once again, delving into this crazy world that we live in. And I got with my friend with me here, Mr. John LeBang. How are you doing, Mr. LeBang?
I'm suffering through a bit of climate change here in Michigan. We're 40 degrees warmer than we were a week ago. What the heck is that about?
It's that interesting thing. It's that interesting thing we have called seasons. It's that season thing. You know, you're heading.
I don't know what that is. They didn't teach me that in school.
You know what? I don't think they teach it to the weathermen anymore either. But welcome, guys. Welcome to Waking Up the Masses. When technology, interesting article I came over, but just the title. When technology becomes religion, science becomes God. Now, let me just say, this article is written a little bit too late. This article is written a little bit too late because throughout history, it always seems that some kind of technology, it may not seem like technology to the profane, but some kind of, look at it, John. Look at our current internet system. Look at all of our technology. I rail on it all the time. We can't build these things. We cannot build these things. We can use them. Some of us can program them. Some of us may be able to build them, but they're so, the building of our technical devices is so compartmentalized. It's like the old so-called moon landing program. It's all compartmentalized. Nobody gets to know what the other guy's doing, so forth and so on. And so it really does. When they put it into that concept, I think you could really take that when technology becomes religion, science becomes God. It is a religion. Gosh, is it not a religion? How many of us sit down at the altar of the digital highway? How many of us sit down, and how many of us depend on what that digital highway gives us? And how many of us, if the digital highway was gone, we would sit twiddling our thumbs going, what will I do now? I have become so immersed into this paradigm for so long. What will I do now?
It's funny, though, because you and I grew up in a time when we didn't have the internet, and we always found something to do. But you're right. I know people that would just be dumbfounded. What am I going to do?
Yes, there's so many businesses that are based on the internet, so forth and so on. This is one reason, the whole micro-broadcasting thing, it's one reason that I got into it. It wasn't necessarily to add to anything. It just, I know one day, you have this net neutrality going on, so forth. And so I know one day we're going to be, do you want to put out an idea? Well, guess what? You have to go through your licensing. You got to go through your approval, and all of that. So a man is going to have, if he wants to put a message out there, he's going to have a way. Whether he's sitting on the street corner preaching to people, whether he is micro broadcasting, but I'd say by then they'll call it, that's illegal broadcasting. Everybody will be a pirate then. According to them, everybody will be an unlicensed illegal broadcaster.
Now, did they put out the net neutrality rules yet, or is everybody still speculating on what these great rules are going to be?
Everybody's still speculating.
Oh, okay. Did you see how many people were chanting, "Oh, net neutrality"? Yeah, and I'm like, did you read it?
Now, here's the thing. And a lot of people that you will hear that have cheered for net neutrality. This is one thing I've noticed. It's on the hate anybody but with money. It's the hate anybody but with money crowd. You know what I'm talking about. The socialists hate everybody with money crowd. And just to give fair where fair's due, a lot of these big corporations, Google, Comcast, all of them. I'm not going to name them all. I'm not going to go through them, but all these groups, they're shady. They're shady. They make backdoor deals, just like our politicians with our politicians, as it always has been. That's a problem. So
I don't know how anybody trusts these guys ever.
Right. But that's the thing. They cheer for this. I mean, if you wanted to make truly make a thing where you help people out, I mean, you can look at just a few devices that are out there. You have the some of these wireless routers. I saw a wireless router the other day. If you get an antenna with it, line of sight, it's like a half a watt. It's like a half a watt line of sight.
Really?
A couple of miles. Yes, a wireless router. It wasn't that expensive either. One day people are going to realize that the internet is full of crap. One day people are, well, I'd say a lot of people already realize that already, but one day people are going to realize just how much disinformation, how much crap, how useless that it has become. And they're going to want to do this on their own. They're going to want to network on their own, where this person passes around this person passes around that. We have so many, how shall you say, you have so many boundaries, so many firewalls, for lack of a better word, in our way in this day and time to even bring this about. You know, think about that. You have a group of people within a mile or 2 miles, and you all want to share information. Do you realize that you cannot do that? I'm pretty sure legally you cannot, with that kind of internet setup that I was talking about, where you would just simply be routing information from your computer.
Now that would be against the FCC rules, right?
Yes, you'd be putting on your own internet service. You got to get licensed. You have to get approval.
You know, I rail on this stuff all the time, Robert. Everybody wants the government to do stuff for us, but all the government ever does is impose stuff on us.
Exactly. You know, that science is becoming God. Let me tell you what that science is. That science is deception, chaos, and slavery of free individuals, man, of their body, their soul, and their mind. And if you can negate these things, then you can produce the perfect sheep, the perfect drone, the perfect slave. Indeed.
Did you hear that? I think I have some sheep running around the neighborhood. I don't know.
Close your doors. Close your doors. They know not what they do, man. They know not what they do. But these, it makes man into a slave. And this is the problem, man. This has really been a problem. I remember, you know, I've been into, and no matter what realm it's gone into, I've been into research of some kind of category for a long time. And I remember back in 2000, 2001, 2002, doing searches on the internet. If you worded it right, man, you could find what you needed. You can't do that anymore. You have to go to like page 10 on the search results, and maybe by chance it pops up. Yeah, it's amazing. And the search results you get on different search engines for looking for the same thing. It's like, wait, how's this working out now? How are they doing these algorithms? Well, I'm going to tell you how they're going to do them. More and more, they are going to, with this net neutrality, more and more, I would speculate that they're going to make sure that you can't get to what you want. You can't find what you want. You will become frustrated. You will become frustrated just like you do when you're going through those FCC-approved channels on the dial of the AM and FM. You'll get frustrated. It's like, man, there's nothing to listen to. There's nothing to find.
People need to realize that every time they word some of these bills or some of these rules, like the Affordable Care Act, it's not going to be affordable. Just like neutrality, it's not going to be neutral. What it's going to be is the prescribed articles, news, whatever they want. That's going to be at the top of the pages. Like you said, you can't find things now. Just wait. We're not going to be able to find things. And of course, I'm speculating because I haven't read what's going on with the net neutrality. You haven't. Nobody has except for the people behind closed doors. None of us know what's really in there.
Yeah. And what are we supposed to trust? Oh, yes, the Republicans are going to get them on this. Yes, let's cheer for those Republicans. They have been so good. They have been, what's the purpose of all that government up there? It's to negate each other. I mean, really, in the way it was put forth, it was so that they negate each other.
Right. They're not supposed to get anything done.
Thank you. They're supposed to sit around and twiddle. They're the ones that are actually supposed to sit around and twiddle their thumbs. But
does anybody really want Mitch McConnell and John McCain passing something through and approving it? Think about that.
Well, I was going to, about their science. About their science. I love the articles I find online about animals. About dogs. I'm a dog guy. I'm Mr. Dog Guy here. I'm the crazy dog man. But, dogs don't remember, what is it? Or what? Dogs don't remember past, they can't remember yesterday. Did you know that? Dogs cannot remember yesterday. It's like, whose dog are they testing?
Right.
Whose dog are they testing to find this out? Did the dog tell them, well, you know, no, Raggy, I cannot remember what happened yesterday. No, I mean, it's amazing the BS science that they throw out there. The BS science in a person that has animals. And then let me tell you guys, this is the same political science. I say political science. It's not political science, but political affiliated scientists that like to put out the same ideas that your earth is heating up and it's your fault. They are, hey, but this is their religion. This is their religion in this day and time. So I guess they get to run with it, man. They get to run with it. Briefly, Mr. Leonard Nimoy died.
Yes.
Mr. Leonard Nimoy died.
Yeah, I did a video. I was quite sad. I can't believe I actually did a video that showed that kind of emotion, but whatever, you know. Well, he was a big influence on me well, you know,
Star Trek was I have to say, not necessarily in the whole sci-fi realm, but Star Trek was an influence on me because you had I'll just say it, you had the character of Captain Kirk. You had the character of Captain Kirk. He was intelligent. He got the girls.
He got every girl.
He tried to get out of every situation without violence that he could, but when it came down to it, he won. So, you know, but no, it was the way that they depicted the male characters back then. They didn't try to make them all flawed and messed up and everything, even more flawed than the regular human is. Do you know what I mean? Even more. They didn't make it a soap opera, I guess. But I found some very interesting things. You know, I was watching one I didn't know that Leonard Nimoy sang a song called Bilbo Baggins.
Yes. He was a talented guy.
Bilbo Baggins, back in 1973 in the LSD days and everything. You could tell that video. It's like, yeah.
He still had the Spock haircut in that video too.
But interesting, I was watching, what's his name? Mark Dice. Watched one of his videos. He was talking about a Star Trek episode. And I went and watched the whole thing. What was this animated Star Trek episode? I went and watched the whole thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go watch this whole thing and see what's going on with this. And it's called, The Magic of Megas 2. And it's like they go to the center point of creation of the universe. I know it sounds like a Star Trek movie, doesn't it? They go to like the center point of this creation of universe, and there they find Lucian. He calls himself Lucian or Lucius, but it's Lucifer. They find this guy, you know, he's got the horn feet, the horned head and everything. And they make him out to be this bad guy and a good guy. Dice, you know, there was so much more. I guess he's trying to do a quick video. There was so much more in this that was very, very interesting. You have a character in there that they made to be sort of this good guy in a way, but he was also a bad guy. Let's see if I can find what is, I made sure and put down the name so it's Asmodeus. Asmodeus. You know, this is the demon. This is one of those he's a Talmudic demon. He's mentioned in the Talmud. One of the ones that supposedly was, tricked, you know, through some spells and stuff into building the Temple of Solomon. But a lot of different, he was supposed to represent, what was it? Lust, so forth. So he was one of those demons, man. He was one of the demons, and, a lot of different names. Asmodeus, Osmodius.
Did you research his name at all?
Yeah, I was looking through different things on him. It varies from belief to belief, man. You got him in the Kabbalah and the Talmud, some of the Gnostic scriptures, but he's supposed to be this demon, and he's no better. He's no better than the one that is perceived as Lucifer. He really is no better, but they make him into like this pilgrim guy. They make him into like this pilgrim guy, but all of them, they left Earth. They left Earth because they were being persecuted for their beliefs. See, these are like fallen angel type things that they were doing.
Right.
They left Earth because they were being persecuted for their belief, but the one good guy that loved mankind, he kept telling Kirk, was Lucius, the Lucifer one. Oh, I love mankind. They're great. They're great. And in the end, it's real interesting in the end to see how they go, it don't matter what he did. You know, it was a children's cartoon. This is a children's cartoon, and they showed on Saturday mornings, that's when you saw cartoons. And it's like at the end, Kirk's like, well, everybody deserves a second chance, and it's what he does now. We know.
I mean, I didn't watch much of the animated series, so I'm going to go back and look at that.
But it's also interesting where Spock got the signal from. The live long and prosper, fingers separated there. He remembered that he was an Orthodox, and he went to an Orthodox Jewish church, and he remembers these priests called the Kohen. It's like the Kohan or something. And it's one of these when they were giving these. They were almost like the way I looked it up. The way what it strikes me as, they're almost like evangelicals in a way for the Jew. And that was as they're sitting there praying, they're holding their hands up back and forth with that same symbol. So, I just thought it was fascinating. There we go. Fascinating. I just thought it was interesting how you can find, but we know all the connections. We can look at Star Trek and see just in the people that are there. Remember the first captain? Pike. It was right. Pike's Enterprise. And
Christopher Pike.
Yes. And then who was it passed off to? Kirk. Old, I think it's like old Scottish for church.
But is it?
It goes back to some old. I think it's old Scottish. I believe that's over in there. It goes back to Kirk is church.
But if I looked at it as James T. Kirk, Knights of the Temple of Jerusalem, if you go backwards with his.
Yeah, I've heard.
I don't know if that's the connection either, but that's there, whether it is or not. But they sure, whether they did it on purpose or it was used because of lore, however they brought it into the show, it's definitely very obvious, all the symbolism and all that.
Roddenberry was a secular humanist that brought all kinds of mystery school stuff into his stuff. But at the end of the day, you will notice there's no gods. They tell him there's no gods. None of that kind of crazy stuff. Even that one who mourns for Adonai. And
right.
They call him Apollo, but who mourns for Adonai. They even tell him, we don't have any need for you anymore.
Right.
The one God. Now, who is that one God? That the Enterprise, that's on the Enterprise. But no, it's very interesting. Now, the later shows, I have to say, definitely, they threw in a lot of stuff there. Not the later shows, but the latter TV shows as in Next Generation, all those. They were real blatant about things. And honestly, man, a lot of modern day sci-fi, if you look at it, it's just a big ripoff.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, man. Modern day sci-fi is nothing more than a big ripoff of constantly, they're constant, even the words they use, what was it? I always reference Stargate. There was, some weird religion they had on Stargate where they are enforcing people. It's like in another galaxy, they're enforcing people to take it. And one of the big things you got to do is pray. One of the big things you got to do is always pray. They call it origin. Well, that was a person. That was a person that was persecuted by, one of the Pope of Alexander. I forgot what his name is. Theos. What was his name? Damn it, Jim.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No. I have it on the tip of my tongue. You know what? We won't remember. But Origin is also this guy. He was Origin Adamantius. This guy, he lived like 185 AD, maybe a little, and afterwards. He brought about this idea of what we know in this day and time of hell, all the fire and the demons, and all that stuff, and that you had to pray to avoid this. Yeah, you had to pray to avoid this. He even got into, which leads me into another story I saw. He even got into this idea of, he castrated himself. This guy he castrated himself. Literally. Literally. He, did the chop on himself. Origin did. And, there was a cult back in the 1700s, 1800s. They were called the Skopsky, I believe. And this was in Russia. And they were the cult of the castrators, the order of the castrators. men, lots of men. When they got it, they called it the baptism of fire. Baptism of fire. But yes, the male adherents of this cult got the chop chop. It was a problem. It was a severe problem. These guys were revolutionaries, but they were fanatics. They weren't like the Jacobins that kept everything under lock and key, so to speak.
And they kept everything. They kept everything as well.
Yeah, these Skopsky, they were very, very much so. Also, and you can look it up. If you want to spell it, it's Skoptsi or castrated, castrated in Russian. You can look these guys up. I mean, they were a force to be reckoned with. They allied themselves with the Marxist groups and the communist groups. You didn't want to deal with them. They were mad fanatics, man. Mad fanatics. They got into all kind of going in trances and stuff. But one of the key things, once to become an elevated member, you got the old chop. But they lured men in. They would lure men in with sex and orgies and this kind of stuff. But eventually you got that baptism of fire. That's what they called it. And you got the seal. But no, tens upon, see, it's interesting, these secret societies that we really don't read about that much. Tens upon tens of thousands of individuals were part of this cult. It got to be where they didn't even know who was part of it. There was one Russian czar, I think it was Alexander the First, who was well known. It was well known that he possibly had done this to himself. And done the old chop. There is so just to show people this isn't anything crazy, you can see where it's happened. There is spiritual leader allegedly, this is in Independent UK, spiritual leader allegedly manipulated 400 men into removing testicles to be closer to God. Rahim.
I'm quitting that religion if I'm that's not in it. Sorry, dude.
Guru Meet Rahim Singh, an Indian pop star and telepreacher with a reported wealth of more than $50 million, is being investigated after he allegedly manipulated around 400 men to get their testicles removed. I've heard about this guy. I have heard about this guy. He, several years ago, there was some of his former followers came out. But this is a joke. See, this is, we always hear about these mystical. It's interesting. We don't see the exact country. We always hear about these mystical minded Hindus. It's like, guys, you got televangelists too. And not only are your televangelists doing the things they do over here, over here, they literally they figuratively take them from you. This guy wants you to cut them off because it'll get you closer to God.
Yeah, that ain't cool. I when people talk about that, it leaves me speechless because I don't get it. There's nothing going to separate me from my buddies, man. That's all I'm saying.
Even if you get closer to God?
Sorry. I'll be an atheist.
It's just not going to work for you, huh?
If that's my choice,
But no, it is. It's to me, it's fascinating that in a bad way, that you can find people that are led this far.
Yeah.
That's like, wait, how about I go through the rest of life? I keep them attached, and then I'll talk to God about it later. And if he really meant for me to cut them off, I'll apologize.
But why did God put them there in the first place? That's
I don't know.
God put them there in the first place. I'm pretty sure. I mean, yes, I don't know, but
yeah, but different people have different opinions on that. Yeah, Bruce Jenner's got an opinion on that. From Wheaties to wackies.
No comment. I'm gonna take the politician's stance right there.
From pole vault to no pole. Let's continue, man. Yeah. But but yeah, there's a lot of secret societies that have had a distinct influence. And once again, people should look that up. They can check out the history of these guys, but you will find pictures on them. They dress real flamboyant, like big old white, lacy night shirts and stuff, man. But you can look up the Skopsky, Skoptsi, and, major problem in Russia. Major problem years and years, a century ago in Russia, where they were even after the Soviet Union came into play, they were even sending them up to Siberia, man. getting them the hell out of there. It wasn't that what they had done to themselves. It became such an influence. More and more people were doing this. And it was that belief, man, that it got them closer let's make it clear. The Skopsky claimed to be Christian. They claimed to be Christian, but they went into this Christian goddess thing, and it made them more like that. They were getting closer to the goddess by emulating the goddess. Completely. But some of their female members, let me just say, some of their female members also, man, they would cut off a breast sometimes. So it's like I said, it's fascinating to see what some of these secret societies have done throughout time. We're coming up on break, man. I wanted to talk, I've been looking up in the news over the past month or so about the triads. We hear about the triads, but we don't hear, we don't hear about how did these guys come about? What secret societies did they come from? Mao Zedong organized his communist. These guys came from secret societies. It has always been the secret societies. And as I've said before, a lot of these very interesting secret societies have always claimed in their lore in China that they were about bringing back, overthrowing the Manchu dynasty and bringing back the Ming dynasty. Chinese secret societies are not without their symbolism either. What is that Ming dynasty they were going to bring back? We'll be back here in a few minutes, guys, on Waking Up the Masses right here on Truth Frequency Radio.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, and that all men are created equal.
The Freedom Link with Joe Joseph, Monday through Friday on Truth Frequency Radio.
And welcome back to Waking Up the Masses right here on truthfrequencyradio.com. I want to apologize. Hey, guys, I'm sorry. I've been sick. You heard a repeat of the broadcast of Waking Up the Masses on Thursday. I came down with the flu for a while. I kept fighting and I was like, no, I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to get sick. And I'm always stubborn about that. And eventually smack. It got me. I had resisted it the whole time, and I had to. Resistance was futile at that point. But welcome back, Mr. LeBang. I know you've seen. I know you've watched a lot of the. I don't know if you have. I'm making an assumption here. Yeah, have you watched any of the? The more. What would you say the kung fu movies, the Chinese, different Chinese movies, especially a lot of them came into popularity. I remember back around late 90s and then the early part of this century, I started seeing more and more stuff come from China that depict the different martial arts groups. And there's always some sort of mystical thing about them.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of that, to be honest with you. I remember like a few kung fu. I think it was Kung Fu. What was that TV show? Was it called Kung Fu?
Yeah, that was with David Carradine.
And then maybe a few Bruce Lee movies. But okay. Yeah, I was into Godzilla when I was
even the Bruce Lee movies and stuff. They are depicting in most of these. You are seeing these secret societies. It was very, like I said, with all of these different secret societies, it was in China. It seemed to be, not all of them, but most of them, it seemed to be that they had this function of being resistance movements against the Manchus, against the Manchurians, against these guys. Even up until, like you saw, what we know as the Boxer Rebellion of early 1900s. I think it was actually in 1900, if I'm not mistaken. It was the guy that got that going. Dr. Sun Yat-sen. he worked by means of these different secret societies. He worked by means of these different secret societies, and the main one he worked with was, at that time it was called the Kuomintang, I think that's the way, Kuomintang. And it was the National Party, which went on to become the National Party of China. Now, and a little bit of history behind that. Then we're going to go back in history, but a little bit of history behind that. When these guys came into power, you had your Republican government. They fled to Formosa. What do we call Formosa now? Taiwan. But this Nationalist Party, that had been that secret society, they stayed, man. They stayed. Mao Zedong, his group, the communists, they were early organized as a secret society. And so what you have now is both of these elements. You got the group that went to Formosa. You got Mao Zedong's group. And both of these, using their different sub-secret societies, they constantly push back to try to gain control, not just of China, but, Mao Zedong to maintain control of China, but also to maintain criminal enterprises via their different groups overseas. So, and they did a good job. With both of them, they did a good job. We can even see with the triads today. But in China, historically, traditionally, secret societies are not something to be scared, but they're something to, they take them very seriously. They take these things very seriously. They like it. They like it. It's considered to be an honor to be part of some, and that was the case you would find in a lot of Native American tribes. To be part of some initiated in the secret societies was very interesting, but it's also very interesting to see how a lot of these men that were considered patriots in China, they were pushing back, they had a different reason. But we can go back 2,000 years and find one of the origins of your main Chinese secret society group now, and they were called the Carnation Eyebrows, or the Carnation Painted Eyebrows. They had like painted faces, man, and the ruler, through chaos, burning stuff down, banditry, this guy almost became the ruler of the country. He almost became the ruler of the country. The only way they were beaten, it is said historically, the only way the Carnation Eyebrows were beaten at that time is the opposing groups painted themselves the same way. They painted themselves the same way to confuse them and everything. So, the Copper Horses, just to name a few of these groups that sort of shot off from this, man. The Copper Horses, the Iron Shins. After Christianity started taking hold in China a little bit, there was a Taoist, and he was considered to be a Taoist magician, and as King Kao or King Koi. He declared himself, he was a god, and all these people started following this guy, man. They started following this guy. Let's see, what was the name of his group? The Yellow Turban Rebels. The Yellow Turban Rebels. And,
what color turban did they wear?
Yellow. They were the Yellow Turban Rebels. So the Yellow Turban Rebels, or the Yellow Turbans in short, that these guys were called. This group and another group, I cannot remember. I was doing some. There was a listener up in Canada that requested I talk about these some. I cannot find the name of the other group that these Yellow Turbans got together with. But so they took this oath. This is sort of the beginning of your triads. They take this oath that they are going to liberate the country from any oppressive forces, from the Manchus, so forth and so on. Now, this guy, Chang Koi, he was deified. My dogs are acting up. This guy was deified as a god by them. And still to this day, he was deified as the god of war. And still to this day, he's like the patron saint of a lot of these Chinese secret societies, in particular among them. There's got to be another dog outside doing something. I want to apologize to the listeners. My dogs are acting up. And I don't want to get on to them on the air. So they, even the triad cult to this day, they deify this guy. Well, supposedly they deify him. So, not a lot as far as their oaths go. As far as their oaths go and everything, there's not a lot of information, except up until about 11. They start finding information about the oaths that these guys started taking about the 1100s. It was the 1100s around in that time. Listen to this one. I found this one. This is one that's by one of these secret societies. Let me see which one this is. I think this is the Yellow Turbans. It says, quote, "We 108 persons assembled in this hall regard the stars as our brothers, and heaven and earth as our father and mother. Every heart is spotless. We bind ourselves to share each other's happiness and sorrow. May anyone who is unkind or double-dealing be attacked by devils. May knives and swords cut our bodies and thunderbolts destroy every trace of us. May we everlasting sink into hell and not be reborn as human beings. May heaven and all the gods look down upon us as we swear." The members, they only swore to meet, it's funny, one time. When it was noticed about some of these Chinese secret societies, they didn't have some big lodge where they met all the time. One time through that generation would they meet and discuss these things.
So it was like all the bosses in the mafia getting together. Just
very similar. Very, very similar, man. Then a couple hundred years later, you have about the 1300s. You got this is probably a more common known society. It's called the White Lotus Society. The White Lotus Society. During this time of the White Lotus Society, Kublai Khan, he had beaten down Chinese resistance. This guy, just a second, let me mute my microphone. You might have even heard that as I muted my microphone. It was a dog discipline yell. So you have your White Lotus Society. These guys come about. And this was during the time that the Mongols, they had come in and taken over. And so they had this, they even started throwing a little bit of propaganda around. Started throwing a little bit of propaganda around. There's this rumor that the White Lotus Society started that said, quote, when stirs the one-eyed man of stone, this dynasty will be overthrown. And legend says that there was this became a slogan. This started becoming a slogan in the family, and then they have found a stone obelisk on the Yellow River. They found a stone obelisk on the Yellow River, and this helped, it sort of pushed that rumor together, and so they had this idea of this coming Messiah now. It's interesting. All across, through this country, they started having this idea of this coming Messiah. And who came in and scooped up the people in order to get them to cause chaos and overthrow the ruling order? The secret societies. The same ones that put this out there. They came in and took over. But it's interesting to see when the Mings. This is all, you'll hear within these Chinese secret societies going back hundreds of years, thousands of years, you will hear, going back hundreds and hundreds of years, you will hear about this idea of the rightful heirs to the Chinese thrones being the Mings. The Mings. Now, with every secret society, even the Triad Society, it's founded upon this royalist and patriotic myth. Just like every secret society, there's an object. There's an object. In the higher degrees of initiation, what they found out was Ming in Chinese. I can't remember what dialect it is in Chinese, but Ming is light. They, just like you'll hear about restoring the Holy Grail or the lost word, blah, blah, blah. It's all about intellect. It's all about becoming that illumined man, that perfect man. So theirs was not about the restoration of the Mings. They could care less. That's what they put into their doctrine, but it was about light. It was about light. The object which they were looking for was light, intellect, to be superior than those around them. Even to this day, man, look at it. Does it look like the Ming dynasty is going to come back even to this day? No, it doesn't. But we can look through the history. We can look through the history of Chinese secret societies and find out that's what they were talking about.
Right.
18th century. I'm trying to remember which. I don't want to have to take the time to look the guy's name up. There was a emperor. The emperor in China it was during the 1700s. They, what were these secret societies involved with? They were involved with the British East Indian Company, the opium trade. So not only, in the 1700s, there was a royal decree that said if you got caught with opium, you died. You died. I think it was by strangulation that you died.
Were you speaking of Kangxi?
Kangxi.
Was that the emperor you were speaking of?
You know what, man? To save my butt, I cannot remember his name. I cannot remember his name at all, but he was one of the ones during the 1700s, and because there had been so much, how do you want to say, so much, chaos brought on by opium addiction in the country, which was brought on by the British. They started outlawing it, and he started outlawing these secret societies. Now, 1814, because of a lot of the secret societies and these subversive groups being outlawed, you got 3 of them. Actually, there was 5 of them. Excuse me, I was going to name the primary 3, but there were 5 of them. There's the White Lotus, the White Feather, the 3 Incense Sticks Secret Society, the 8 Diagrams Secret Society, and the Rationalist. So, and of course, like I said, this is sort of like using the Chinese, looking at their paradigm here. You could look at this in like you have those at the top, the illumined ones. And then you have the underlings. You got the OTO, you got the Golden Dawn, you got Freemasonry, so forth and so on. It's all in all. All these groups sort of became part of the triads. They all became, but all 5 of these groups, they attacked the imperial palace.
At the same time?
Yes. They organized all of these secret societies. Sort of like a mini French Revolution that didn't do too well. Because, it was actually, the only reason they say historically it failed was because the different groups had this idea of different dates that were supposed to happen. And, there's always an excuse, man. There's always an excuse.
Yeah, but I think the Chinese ruler was probably a little more brutal than maybe the French ruler at the time. Maybe I'm wrong, but Chinese rulers were pretty tough.
But they were getting their butt kicked. I mean, there's
Right.
there's also another little myth here. Like I say, you see a lot of these things translated into films. There's another little myth here. During that time, there was a son of this emperor in 1814 when the palace was being attacked, and he said that he kept trying to shoot these guys, like musket balls. He was shooting a musket, and he knew he was hitting them, and he never went down. So he had like a pendant, like a silver buttons or pendant or something on his shirt, put those in the musket. And the guy went down because he shot him with silver. It was a werewolf. It was the werewolf of China. But, so yeah, like I said, man, all through history, it's fascinating to see. And like I said, the Boxers' Rebellion, were members. These boxers were members of what was called the Fist of Protection Society. Another one there. So over and over. Let's see. There were some more I was going to bring about because there were some more that were involved in the Boxers' Rebellion. There was the Fist for Righteous Harmony, the Big Sword Society. The Big Sword Society.
You had to have a big sword to be in there.
Even to this day, in certain circles, the Big Sword Society is one that is used by the triads. Even to this day, it's ones that were used by the triads. And it's interesting, we always hear about triads, and when we talk about them in this country, in the United States, we make a point of talking about them in the context of, like being over in San Francisco or in places like this, and the drug trade here. Hong Kong, remember the protests, the pro-democracy protests that were going on in Hong Kong? Do you know that the Hong Kong government was accused of sending in the triads? Malaysia, even to this day, in their news constantly, you see stories where they're going after the triads. There was a guy that was arrested in San Francisco. I think it's been a few years ago, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and he was one of the big head up guys in these Chinese secret societies. And the interesting thing is, they even talked about it openly in the mainstream media. And whenever we have someone that gets busted in this country, a politician or somebody like that, they don't talk about the groups they were members of, do they? Oh, because those are all good, right? Those are all good. Those are just about helping.
Well, that's Trilateral Commission. That's good, man.
Yeah, they're legal secret societies. They're out in the open. It's an open conspiracy. So I would invite people to, like I said, look up different ones. I'm not going to, there's so much. Well, here's one more. We can reference in the 1600s. In the 1600s, let me see if I can bring up, there were a group of monks, and they lived in the Fujian province. Gosh, sounds like there's a bad dog.
What province again?
Fujian.
Okay.
Fujian. I think the capital is Fujian. But the Fujian province, it said that these monks had lived there for at least 1,000 years. All right. And that they had perfected a certain form of martial arts. They had actually perfected this certain form of martial arts, that was almost like magic. And that kind of martial arts was called Kung Fu. It was called Kung Fu. They were said to be a secret society, man. They were said to be a secret society. And in Fujian, these guys are still revered because they push back. They push back against these. I cannot remember what country it came from. It was some prince. It was some prince that tried to invade their country. And, invaded China. And so they, being bandits, going underground, little hit and run type things, they helped push these guys out of the country. This is in the 1600s. Now, this is the same group. This is the same group that you would see in the Kung Fu show, Kwai Chang King, that he was a member of. You notice in anybody that watched those old shows, when he killed his master, then he was wanted. They were going to say, he was out of China. They were searching his butt down over here to kill him. So, it said he killed, I forgot what the whole show was, but that was one thing. He was wanted by that order. We're supposed to believe that these monks are supposed to be peace-loving and that kind of thing. They were simply just under the guise. Once again, they were under the guise and once again trying to bring about that Ming dynasty or bring about that light.
Well, let's not forget that church and religion and government have always had a nice friendship through time.
Yes, and then when they separate, it seems that one dominates the other. When they separate, it always seems that one dominates and destroys the other. And then what do they build up in its place? They build up another religion. It might be the religion of technology. The religion of transhumanism, the religion of me, the Luciferian doctrine.
Yeah.
So I was looking for any more pivotal information on the idea of Chinese secret society, these Tongs, another one, Tongs of Terror, another group. But people should definitely check them out. There was a law actually that came into being in Malaysia that provided for the registration. Check this out. It provided for the registration of dangerous secret societies, in their own words, dangerous secret societies. Now, who was not? Mercantile companies didn't have to register, and European Freemasons did not have to register. American Freemasons did, but not European Freemasons. But American Freemasons and different triad associated groups had to actually register in Malaysia if they wanted to. And that's where one of the problems, like I said, I was looking at the news, and you see now there's problems coming out of Malaysia. I'm sure there's always been problems coming out of Malaysia. These are the Chinese, these are the Far East Jacobins, man. These are the Chinese Jacobins, and they've been at it for a long time. And why does it perpetuate so much within their society? I wonder, more than, say, European society did or American, because there is a great pride that is taken in being part of these secret societies because they have this misguided belief that it's about patriotism. That
Right,
it's
it's
about bringing back that Ming. Except they don't learn. Then finally, when they get up to the top, they get their Luciferian doctrine. No. It's not about bringing back the Mings. It's about the light, the intellect.
Yep, they're more. They are more overt with these secret societies over there. Seems
Yes.
like.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Like I said, you will see the whole doctrine of the Templars and the whole Dan Brown thing. You know, bringing back that lost bloodline, doing all this. That's what the Templars were doing. They were protecting it. When that was never true. Maybe they were contracted at one point to protect the bloodline. They got past that. They got past that real quick. It was not, a lot of people don't realize when Jerusalem was taken by Saladin, and you hear about how he let a lot of people go. He let he let a lot of the inhabitants go. Do you realize that at first he wanted them bought? They had to buy them. He figured there was enough money. The Templars have enough money. They can purchase these people's freedom. They can purchase their freedom, but no. You realize the Templars got the hell out of Dodge. Didn't help a damn soul. They got the gold and they hit the road. So it was Saladin that actually let them go, even paid where they were being kept as slaves at a certain point, even paid to have them released. He was known. He was known all over Europe, man. He was a conqueror, but he was also known as a very compassionate man. And when he did conquer, he was also very, very adamantly opposed to the assassins, the order of the assassins, and waged war on them. Suddenly, it seems that they came to a little, shall we say, agreement. Nobody knows about that agreement, but it's said that one night that they tried to kill him. Historically, the assassins tried to kill Saladin several times, and historically, he killed some of them that tried to get him, as well as his guards killed the others. One night, he woke up. This is what it says. Then there was a knife by his pillow, and it said, "This could be in your chest. This could have been in your chest." And it seemed like ever since then he became sort of united, and he needed to unite in order to take the Jerusalem area. He needed that whole, but he was a Muslim. He was not an assassin's version of the Muslim or an ISIS version of the Muslim. He was simply Abbasid, I think it's called, was the basic doctrine of Muslim. He was an Orthodox. So yeah, history does not tell things the way it should. One would see, even with the Crusades, man. Like I said, there's so much historical stuff about the Crusades people don't see. But back to these Chinese secret societies, guys. You can look them up. I'll give you some of these names again. You got the White Lotus. Let's go through. You've got the White Carnation and the Carnation painted eyebrow. The Carnation painted eyebrows for your modern day, what do you call them? Triads. You could find their origin there with the white.
I was going to say, it sounds like an 80s glam band.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was looking at all these. I was like, these guys are real flamboyant. Even the way, like this white, with the carnation painted eyebrow society. They painted their faces up in all kind of different colors. Hey, man, such is some of these crazy things. So, guys, we'll be back here in just a few minutes on Waking Up the Masses. Hang in there.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio. You're an enemy combatant of the United States of the New Globe. I will not read you your rights. You don't have any rights. You will be detained indefinitely. Say goodbye to life as you know it. Say goodbye to life as you
And welcome back to Waking Up the Masses here on truthfrequencyradio.com. Don't forget, coming up in the next hour, you have the Kev Baker Show, and right after that, you have Freedom Link with Joe Joseph. So make sure and stay tuned for those shows. But welcome. Welcome back. Mr. LeBang, Mr. Bang's not there. I always love giving references to these different, just throw a little bone out there for you every once in a while. I'll give you references to these different sci-fi shows. You see in Stargate, the Jaffa. What is Jaffa? We know that's a city over in, an area over around Tel Aviv, but what did it mean? What was it? What was the whole thing? Jaffa Hill, and it was considered a this big, militarily strategic hill. It had strategic value. You have and it was protective. It was sort of the protective hill. You got Stargate, the Jaffa are the protective order. I do not think there's anything new under their sun, guys, because they constantly keep putting stuff. They have no creativity except how they translate things. No creativity at all, except how they translate things. How they try to put them together. None whatsoever. You can find that over and over with sci-fi. Go back and listen to some of the, X-1, Dimension X. These are like 1950s radio shows. Sci-fi radio.
I thought I lost you there.
Oh, no. I lost you. I was giving the listeners, I was throwing out some old sci-fi stuff. I was talking about how if you want to see where a lot of your movies and stuff come from, you can go back and listen to some 1950 sci-fi, man. 1950 sci-fi. I was talking about Dimension X, X-1, 2000 plus. All these different shows, and you can see how they've been translated over into TV shows now, and you can see how they were simply translating stuff that they got from books. That person that wrote the book, they were simply getting something that they sort of ripped off from the mystery schools or history. So over and over, man. Over and over, nothing is new, no creativity, just a little bit of, shall we say, mind control thrown in there with everything. Welcome back, Mr. LeBang. Where you been?
I don't know. I hit a button and I was gone, and I was freaking out going, oh my God, I hung up on him. But I guess I didn't. I don't know what I did. I found you. I'm back.
So we have this guy, where is it? This nutcase. Who is he?
Which one? There's a lot of them.
I know. It's a large portion. Where was it? Man, it's some guy at a church, man. He had a 666 tattooed on his forehead. Man with 666 tattoo stabs guy in church. Oh God, and I saw so many articles online. Oh yes, this is because this is the time, it's the devil's time. There was right up north of me, up in Tennessee, up in, where was it? Spring Hill. There were some birds that fell out of the sky. Every time I see something like this, it's like people drum up the whole thing. It's end times. Oh, it's end times. It's end times and Revelations. As I've shown people before, Revelations is nothing more than two different stories sort of meshed in together. The Atlantean myth and the, back to the Eleusinian mysteries with, Persephone and Hades. I think that was their names. Just all a big mishmash. John, who wrote that, the John of, that wrote Revelations, definitely had an insight into the mystery schools. See, I used to hear Bill Cooper talk about that. Did you ever hear him explain it? No. See, that's what people need to, there's a lot of people out there. John, we've talked about this. Hate to get sidetracked on this, but we talked about this. There's a lot of people out there that have got into Bill Cooper's work that have taken it as, that's it. He told us everything, man. He told us everything. He was the end all be all. He is the church of research.
But he led you to it. He didn't give you all the info. You had to go and read yourself. Exactly.
It took me a while too, man, to go through I'm just like, where did he get this? This comes from the mystery schools. Where did he get this? And so I started doing some research. I got into these old myths. It's like, I'll be dang. There it is. Right there, right there in front of us. Right there in front of me. You can see where it was taken from. But so many people dwell in this idea that we have to have some big boogeyman come around, an antichrist. We have to have, hellfire and brimstone. Hasn't there been like hellfire and brimstone before in history? And I didn't see the world end. Yeah, the world didn't end in that time.
But
The world did not end in that time. Could we turn it into a sea of glass? Yes, we could. With nuclear bombs, of course we could. But there tends to be this big running towards the idea that there's a devil. This is nothing but this is dualism at its best, man. This is dualism at its best. Even if you see one of the first subverters of Christianity, and that would be Mainz with Manichaeism. This idea of Manichaeism, you see how he brought in this idea. What was it? What was his philosophy? Adam and Eve. Let's see if I can remember right. Okay. There's a principle of good. There's an unseen principle of good. And then there's this principle of evil. And they're all eternal. And humanity is in itself, this was Main's belief, humanity is in itself of a satanic origin. How many people have you heard that consider themselves religious people say man is just evil? It's just our evil nature, John. Just our evil nature, man. That's how we end up with these things. Main's brought out this idea that Adam and Eve cohabitated with each other. Adam and Eve cohabitated with each other. And their offspring were these little demon-like creatures. Seriously, their offspring were these demon-like creatures. Mainz can be accredited with, a lot of you guys that get into the fallen angel thing, the Book of Giants. This guy, he was a subverter. He was a subverter of the early ideas of Jesus, and he came forth with these Zoroastrian conceptions of good and evil. The Ormuds, I think it was called, or Ramons, and Ariman, and just perverted, started perverting, putting these Kabbalistic superstitions in there, and just perverted completely Christianity around him in his day and time. So, we see and what was another group? There was another group, we've heard about them a lot on the news recently, the Yazidis. The Yazidis, you hear about ISIS, uprooting the Yazidis. Well, the sect of the Yazidis, this goes back hundreds of years. Let me give you from their faith, which they believe that God, quote, God created 7 spirits as a man lighteth one lamp after another. The first of these spirits was Satan, who God made supreme ruler of the earth for a period of 10,000 years. And because Satan was the supreme master of the earth, those who dwelt in it could prosper only by doing him homage and worshiping him. They call him. It's said in the religion they don't call him Satan. He is known by Malik Taus, or what would be the angel peacock, or the peacock angel. And they worshipped him in the form of this bird, like this metal bird. Sometimes it was brass, sometimes it was gold. And this is how they worshiped this guy. Now, they couldn't say Satan or Shaitan in their language. They couldn't say this, but they could say Malik Tau, which is the angel peacock. The angel peacock, the proud angel. The peacock is supposed to be proud. So that is their belief. And I don't knock anybody for any of their beliefs. They can believe what they want. It doesn't seem like the Yazidis' beliefs are causing them too many problems, except for being persecuted by nutcases. So, right. But this is their belief. They pray to Satan. They pray to Malik Tau, peacock angel. They pray to Shaitan, Satan. This is their idea. And see, this is very, very counter to what Pike said. A lot of people will say, once again, they'll say the secret societies worship Satan. This is completely and totally counter to Pike's belief. Those that consider themselves the adepts and look at what Pike said. Pike says that Satanism is heresy. Pike said right out Satanism is heresy. Pike had problems with people. Most notably, not necessarily real problems, but in discussions, where he would just be like, "No, you're crazy." With most notably Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Longfellow was a Satanist. He helped start up an Oddfellows group up in Canada. It was a group of Oddfellows, another lodge in Canada that was basically just a cover for Satanism. He was actually him and another guy, I think it was Moses Holbrook, they were both quite disturbed because they wanted to bring about this whole idea of venerating Satan. Whereas Pike had this idea that it was a principle of evil. That it's the idea of a principle. That's the difference. I guess, in this, what you would call Satanism and the Luciferian doctrine, is they are very much different. And Satanism is the idea of the worship. It is sort of this convoluted, backwards worship of evil instead of good. That is Satanism. But the principle of Luciferianism is that Lucifer is a principle of, it's a strong type energy. It can be a principle of evil, but at the same time, it can be used as this principle of good. See, I found that very interesting in the Star Trek animated thing, the Magus 2, the magic of Magus 2, where Kirk says, hey, well, he may have been bad, but hey, he's good, you know. He's doing good now. Everybody deserves a second chance.
Well, he does, man. He deserves a second chance. Don't we all?
Yeah, let's see. Moravians, a group called the Moravian Brethren. These guys, when were they brought about? But they got into this idea of that dualism. So did the Rosicrucians. But with the Rosicrucians, you will find more of Luciferian talk. Now, see, here's the thing where we have to sit back, John. You and I are not part of this big clan. Or a small clan or a little group of old men. We're not part of that. So I always have to sit back and go, I look at what they do. I look at their words. I see the way they act. They do act like that they are God, that they are supreme. It is their supreme Ming light intellect. But at the same time, it's like we don't know. We really do not know. I was referencing one time, I see a lot of people online, they talk about the Bohemian Grove and the cremation of care. Well, understanding it from our point of view says that they are burning up all their care so they don't have guilt. Well, that would be the cremation of guilt. They are cremating that they care about. They are, what does fire do? It purifies. Fire purifies. It makes perfect. So therefore, they are perfecting the things they care about, their doctrine. That is what that means. I don't care how many people say it's about some guilt trip thing. These guys aren't guilty. It's what they believe. Why would they cremate their care? I mean, why would they cremate their guilt? No, it's what they care about. And fire is very important. You're doing it right there in the sign of another sign of intellect, the owl. And, you know, historically, I think it was about 100 years ago, you know, that owl wasn't there. You know what was there?
Nope.
Big Buddha.
Buddha.
Yes, a big Buddha.
So they could rub his belly as they walked on by.
Indeed. So, so there we go, man. There we go. People can, you know, there's a lot of things there that people, we've heard that we get the myth of John, of Nepomuk. The statue of John of Nepomuk in there in the Bohemian Grove. Well, that's a big myth that John of Nepomuk didn't tell what the Queen confessed. John of Nepomuk, it was during the time of the Pope that persecuted the Templars. And then there was another Pope, and that Pope decided he was going to take up residence in Avignon in France. You know, at the same time, there became a counter-Pope, one that took up root in Rome, and he and his followers there in Bohemia, John of Nepomuk, they supported the one in Rome. So that's why he died. That's why he went. That's why he ended up being quote unquote martyred. But that John of Nepomuk, that's not him. That's Hippocrates, not Harpocrates. I think it's Harpocrates. That's the second son of Isis and Osiris. He was always depicted outside of Harpocrates. He was or Harpocrates. Yeah, he was always depicted outside of the old Egyptian lodges with the finger over the mouth. Shh. That's where we get that from. That's where that goes back to. That's not John of Nepomuk. So there's a lot of esoteric even under what people think is the esoteric. Always a lot of esoteric under what people think is the esoteric. But yes, we look at these things. These people do not feel that. That's why I believe, in my opinion, it goes more towards the whole Luciferian doctrine. Because it's not that they feel evil. It's not that they are believing that they're doing evil. To them, they believe they're doing good.
Yeah, they think they're the good guys.
Indeed, they think they're the good guys. There was also another group that got into, some say Luciferianism, some say it went as far as the whole Satanism thing. But it was another group called the Paulicians. The Paulicians, they were dualists that followed the teachings of Paul. There's a lot of dualism. in the book, in Paul's books. So we see this come about, man, but it always seems, this is just what I noticed when I examine it closer and closer, it always seems that this idea of Satan is knocked down. Within the secret societies at the top, this idea of Satan is knocked down, and they take it on for some idea of a principle of energy, a principle that can be used for good or bad, as Pike said, so forth and so on.
Like the knowledge. Knowledge can be used for good or bad, and that's
Exactly.
what Lucifer represents. Is
Exactly.
knowledge.
It's all there. Which takes you back to the whole Garden of Eden thing. What was it that they accepted? Was it this idea of intellect? Now, the intellect's not bad. That's where I have to get into this. We see this idea that, the intellect is bad. That gets me one time. A lot of these people that become, I'm not anti-Masonic. There we go. I know a lot of people that get into the idea of anti-Masonry. I'm not anti-Masonic. There's plenty of teachings of the Lodge I could accept. I'll say that right now. A lot of people, they get into the research of secret societies like, oh my God, I can't believe, yeah, why not? I'm not going to become a Mason because I'm not a joiner, man. I don't do that. But at the same time, no problem. No problem with them whatsoever. I don't care if somebody wants to go out and worship the devil, laying naked in their backyard with hot wax on their body, with even wicks on it, with like lit candles. Do what you want to, man. Don't harm yourself. Don't harm yourself where I have to come over and take care of you because you're stupid for doing that. But do what you want to.
As long as I don't have to see it, put a privacy fence up, right?
Yeah, I believe that the whole do what thou wilt thing, that should end at your front door. There we go. Because otherwise you start, not that we have to be prisoners in society, but otherwise, we don't even encroach on other people's freedoms. That whole idea. Where does my freedom end and yours begin? That kind of thing. So I don't have any problem with what any of these people do. Nothing whatsoever. I have a problem with subversive movements. There's my issue. And there is no intelligent Freemason out there that can't look at the history of his order and say yes within all elements, not just the Grand Orient Lodge, not just the old Jacobin lodges, but yes, in the Grand Lodge too. There have been elements in the past that caused chaos. Because I believe, here's my opinion, without acknowledging that, they set themselves up for it to be done again. They said, it's real easy talking about the Chinese secret societies. They didn't make no bones about it. They were secret. They didn't make no bones about it. Even to this day, this is what they believe in. Chaos and banditry. All about to bring forth the Ming, the light. And those groups, I just want to say real quick, those groups, those Chinese secret societies, that they were very, very instrumental with the exporting of the opium during the Civil War. It made its way over in the form of morphine. After the Civil War, it made its way over in the form of opium. And they started flooding this country with it, man, via Pike let Lemmy. Now, Lemmy was a Satanist. Lemmy was, what's his name?
Lemmy's a bass player, man.
No. Adriano Lemmy. Adriano Lemmy was Manzini's successor. When Manzini died, Lemmy took over. And Lemmy came into New Orleans. Pike opened up, during the Civil War, Pike opened up New Orleans for him to come through. Pike was the head over the Knights of the Golden Circle in Louisiana. He set up they didn't call them lodges, they called them castles. He set up a castle in New Orleans. So, very, very instrumental. It's not like these things are, even though they're a world away, it's not like they did not have an effect, because if it was not for those secret societies that find their bases over 2,000 years ago in China, if it was not for them, then a lot of that opium would not have been able to get out of the country. There would have been more conflicts. But hey, nobody acknowledges these things. We talk about the Civil War. It's all about, it's all about slavery. It's all about slavery, and there's a certain slavery in never acknowledging things. That's the amazing thing. There's a certain slavery in never acknowledging that we do have a history on this planet of secret societies constantly working for the betterment of themselves. See, they throw good ideas out to the profane. liberty, fraternity, equality, knowledge, intellect, these things. They throw good words out, but it's not what they mean. It's not what they meant. Let me say that again, because I'm still stand by that opinion. I'm not saying that there aren't people within the lodge that have some dirty dealings in places, but I do not believe that the lodge is used as a cover. That would be stupid. Don't you think so, man? If you really think about it, that would just be stupid to go back and hide where you were hiding before, which is what the Illuminists did. They used the cover of the lodge. Weishaupt openly talked about it. What did he say? If Masonry hadn't been around, they would have used a reading society as their cover. And they went on to use a reading society, but go ahead.
I was going to say you could use it as a cover, but they're into everything, so everything is their cover. It doesn't stop at a fraternity. They're in everything.
Weishaupt, he and his cronies got the idea in Europe going big time about the philanthropic schools, where you were no longer that you did you get to go to a good religious school, you got to go to an RRR, because by the end it was reading, writing, and arithmetic with an R. It was the basic. It was a template for what we know in this day and time as public schools. Do you know that this was the template that Kabbalist Jews used in different countries where they would become the teachers, even before what you saw Weishaupt doing? You dumbed down society. You saw Weishaupt get involved in through his own, like I said, once again through his own words and what they were doing, and then later some of these other Illuminists that were around him with the media, with reading societies, with books, with publishers.
I think. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
I was just going to say, I think people, it's partially their fault for allowing themselves to be dumbed down because they want to be part of a group, part of society, and we look at things like that. We're society. Why don't we look at an individual? And that's where I think if we would focus more on teaching individualism, which they're not going to do that, so that's up to other people to do that. We wouldn't have people gravitating to these secret societies, these groups that can be manipulated into other things.
Indeed. You've heard me talk some about the whole idea of the fallen angel theory. About the whole idea of the fallen angel theory. Do you realize that there were, for the life of me, man, when I remember these things, when I need to remember them, I've studied so much of this stuff, it just sort of falls back. Shimon Bar Yochai, I think his name was. Let me look. Let me put that in there real quick. Shimon Yochai. I don't know if it's Yochai or Yochai. Now, this guy, he was an Orthodox Jew back in, I think it's like 100. It's just right after Christian times, if I'm not mistaken. Right after that time of Christ, right during that time. And he gave commentary. There were those after him. There were very well written men after him that were Jewish. Remember, the whole Nephilim thing comes from Genesis. And he said that the sons of God were human. He said that word, it should be more like the sons of nobles rather than the sons of God or sons of angels or sons of rulers. Something like that. So this is what we still have. In our day and time, it's the reason we have so much trouble, man. Look, we got another Nephilim up. If this is according to this old Orthodox Jew guy, if we got another Nephilim trying to get in there, that would be Jeb Bush. We had one up there named Jordan, but they were typically, I think the word is to fall upon. It comes from the root verb to fall upon, if I'm not mistaken. And would these guys not be bigger than life? They made them bigger than life with their statues and stuff. But would these guys not be bigger than life?
Right.
With what they have done? They make tales about them. They make mythology about them. I just think it's real fascinating when we look into this stuff. Has this been a deception? This was my big realm of research for 3 years, man. Starting in like 1999 was the fallen angel thing. And I noticed I kept running into things, and now on the reverse, when I start looking up, when I get into Gnosticism, you start finding out a lot of these texts came from these Gnostics, and they weren't writing about literal things. They were writing about these principles, evil and good, and man is of all evil. Hey, we read reality into these things. Many people of different religions, they take scriptures literally. And once again, this is based upon something that someone else said. It's been about 1,000 years ago, but based upon what this guy said. We have pictures all the time of people digging up big bones. We've seen pictures of big people. Who knows, man? Who knows? We'll be right back here on Waking Up the Masses right here on Truth Frequency Radio. Hang in there, guys.
Enemy Within Radio with Tom Barnes and Tommy Woodgate. Saturdays on Truth Frequency Radio.
And welcome back. Waking Up the Masses here on truthfrequencyradio.com. So, Mr. LeBang, what do you think about that guy that was supposed to be this opponent of Vladimir Putin getting shot?
It's interesting. I don't know what to say about it.
I'll give you my opinion on it.
Okay.
Putin didn't have this done. Putin did not have this done.
Think the West did it to make it look like Putin did it?
I don't know who did it, man, but I can tell you this much. This is about causing trouble. This is nothing more. This is about causing trouble. This is about ginning up that final little fight they believe that has to happen between Russia and America to make everybody sit back in horror and see, what did Pike say? See all the savage thing, the root of absolute savagery, bloody turmoil, as he did in his letter to Manzini about the Third World War. Make everybody sit back and go, good God, I am frightened.
Well, we have to fulfill
fireball.
we have to fulfill prophecy with the Gog and Magog, anyways.
Yes,
so
and that's why.
For the people to believe God is coming, prophecy must be fulfilled. And can I say something about the Nephilim? Maybe a different angle on that, real quick. Just something.
Sure.
Whether the story of the Nephilim is allegory or whatever, it doesn't matter. If a person from one tribe is average height, a male was like 5 foot, and they come into contact with a tribe of people that happens to be 6.5, 7 foot tall, because that's something normal with their tribe, it could be considered a giant to that person. We have them right now. If I go stand by any NBA player, I'm going to look like a short guy, and he's going to look like a giant. So maybe some of those stories have that possibility. That's where they got the idea from.
You can look at the, say with the Cherokee. You know, the Spanish, when they came in contact with them, they were amazed first at the diversity of skin color and hair color. That was one thing that the Spanish talked about when they came in contact with the Cherokee. And another thing that was interesting is they talked about how the men were all big. We have a river. I can talk about, like, my great grandfather. I have to remember how many one great. My great grandfather was on my dad's side. That he was full blooded. He was full-blooded Cherokee, and he was almost a 7 foot man. He was almost a 7 foot man. We have a river here in Georgia. It's up in a real remote area, wilderness area. It's called Jack's River, and Jack was about 7. They said he was probably about back in the 1800s post removal. He stayed around, and it said that Jack would, for the children and stuff when they were crossing Jack's River, the Jack's River Trail is 10 miles long. No, 20 miles long. And you have to ford the river 50 something times during that hike. Oh yeah, you have to, you better bring some shoes that definitely are waterproof. But this guy was big. Then we could go to say one of the southwestern tribes, say the Hopi, where they tend to be shorter. So there were certain tribes here that were big men. There were certain tribes in Europe that were bigger men. It's just, some cultures are bigger, some tend to be smaller. I always throw out there on this. Here's the thing, man. I wasn't alive during the time.
Right.
As far as when they're writing about, I was not alive, but I can look back at all these different mythology or stories from different religions. All the mythology and stories from different religions, and you find constantly these titans, these giants. And, they're tearing apart they're tearing apart this guy, or they're tearing apart that guy, or they're having sex with women, doing this and doing that. I just wonder over time if we've lost the meaning that, in my research looking at this, have we lost the meaning of who these people were? Or did we have a species? Or did we have some kind of species of big 20-foot guys? I mean, you got to think about it. All bets are off. Really, all bets are off if you got something like this that's coming back. If you got thousands of creatures like this, they're coming back. If that's the reality, all bets are off.
Huh. Yeah, my 9mm ain't gonna handle much, I don't think.
No, you better be a good shot on that Achilles tendon there. But we do have like I said, once again, all the myths from all these different religions. And I'm not trying to be one of these people that tie them all together, but sometimes we got to look. The apple, the whole idea of that apple, they're very, very symbolic about the apple. It's the end. According to mystery schools, it represents the end of the harvest season. It's the last thing to be picked and stored. That's one of the things in the mystery schools. So therefore, it symbolizes to them, of course, in the Rosicrucians, it symbolizes that's when the Christos, his spirit, comes into the earth and crystallizes. And then coming around this time of year in Easter, it goes back into the cosmos. So, but what is that? Of course, into the earth, into what they, in a lot of the mystery schools, they'll denote as Sophia, Gaia. Comes in there, she becomes pregnant, and he comes back out. Over and over and over again.
It's a rebirth.
Yes, over and over, the death.
Resurrection.
Death, rebirth, and yes. The constant about they use these different stories, I believe, to some of the more serious mystery schools that have been involved with causing problems. I've said before that they used these concepts in order, when they were illuminizing the lodges, so to say, in 1700s. They used these concepts to give people, it's about, this is what we do. We're going to do. We're going to degenerate. We're going to putrefy civilization. And then there's going to be this regeneration. Going to get the lion's paw grip and have this regeneration into this new society, this new order. I can see, honestly, John, I can see how so many people, especially during that time, got caught up in this. You're ruled by monarchies everywhere. It really doesn't matter if it's a soft monarchy. It's still a monarchy. It's still something that you pay taxes. They make decisions. Oh gosh. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. No comment.
Does that sound familiar? We pay taxes. They make decisions. Same thing now. So you can really you can call it
a servant. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
Instead of being a direct serf, now you're just called my fellow Americans.
Your fellow Americans.
And that's supposed to make it better.
And at one time we were people. We could be people of interest. Now we're persons. You're a person of interest. So everybody's a person of interest, it seems, in this day and time. If you got an IP, I'm sure you might be a person of interest. So,
I'm fine, thank you. I'm good. So I took care of that in the break.
Ah, good. I'm glad you understand what I'm talking about. But see, it takes me back once again. It takes me back once again to the idea of fallen angels. The idea of these heavenly beings having sex with earthly women. Having sex with earthly women. Did it happen? Did it happen? And now it also brings us into this, because I say if you're going to examine it, if you're a researcher, it don't matter if you're Christian or New Age or Satanist, whatever you want to be, atheist. Doing research, you have to abandon your preconceived beliefs. And I'm not talking about as far as believing them. I'm talking about you have to abandon those in doing research. Research involves, in my opinion, an objective. In researching it, it involves an objective look.
Yep.
Then, and that gives you knowledge, and then that converts into wisdom of some kind if we analyze it even deeper, of course. But in researching a lot of these things, I keep running into, over and over in different religions, I run into this story over and over. And the alien thing also, we've ran into people talking about that. Speaking of the whole Star Trek thing, I watched a 2-hour, I think it was about 2-hour documentary with William Shatner from like 1977. And it was on the whole Fallen Angels, Eric Von Däniken type stuff. It was all related to that. And it was fascinating, showing these different sculptures, these different drawings. And we see these things and it makes you wonder, is this what went on? See, I'm open to examine anything, but at the end of the day, I see it all has to be solid research, and I see what I see in front of me. I don't see any giants. Now, if they start coming out, I will be the first to tell you guys. I'm sorry. I was a true dumbass on that one. I was a true dumbass, but I don't see any giants. I don't see any things, but I do see what, say, going back to the ancient Hebrew meaning, and then this from the 1st century AD, this Jewish philosopher, what was his name? What did I say his name was? It was Shimon Yaki, I think. But going back to his day where he says it's the sons of men. They were sons of nobles. And that goes back, and using that root, the verb to fall upon, they fell upon people, man. They were tyrants. They were brigands. They were warmongers. And they knew how to do it well. You see that when Nimrod, I believe Nimrod also is Nimrod might have been the original. He might have been the original, might have actually been one, they called him Ninus in Assyria. That, they say he's the first one to make war. Now imagine that. See, I don't believe that organized warfare is something that's natural to our brains. I really don't. See, there's all kind of things. I do not believe that organized warfare that we do in this day and time is something that's natural to our brains. I believe that defending oneself, of course, is natural to the brain, but that's what Nimrod has said he organized warfare.
It's one of the first corporations for sure.
Indeed. One of the first examples of someone reaching for a new world order.
Don't they call it a core or corp? Something like that at some level?
Hey, what?
Don't they call, like in the army, do not they call the core like CORP? I could be wrong on that. I'm not a military expert on that at all. So,
but Nimrod, going back to this,
yes.
And you see later, you see who takes on the doctrine and starts spreading. That would be his wife, Semiramis. She takes on the doctrine. So we have here that this could have been true, but there's a whole building of the Tower of Babel, the ziggurat. So, and I found, now let me go back to, just to give due where is due. There is another Jewish commentator. I do not have his name in front of me, and I don't have this, so I can only loosely quote this. But he talks about this, and he says it relates to, he said, during Nimrod's time. Nimrod was a giant, and all his men were giants. Now, this is another Jewish guy back in several hundred years ago. Like I said, I don't have, in my research that I've gone through, I don't have that in front of me, but I remember it offhand. Now, he talks about, he says, and all these guys were giants. And he talked about how Nimrod watched from the ziggurat, this whole story, using the Ninus. Using Ninus is that because they didn't call him that. They called him Ninus. Nimrod or Nimrod came from Hebrew. It came from Hebrew. I think it's two different words mixed together there, if I remember right. So once again, we do see where you have, you got to give due when you're, like I was talking about research, you got to have an open mind, you got to give due where's due. And you have this other guy saying, yes, there were giants, and that's what Nimrod was. And he was a giant. And also giving way to what you said. Could there have been just bigger men? I've got an uncle that's over 7 foot tall. He's an uncle by law, but he's over 7 foot tall, and he's a big guy. You know, he's like proportional big. He's a big guy. You know, not like, you know, kind of lurchy, but a big guy.
Right. When you're researching and even contemplating certain things, you've got to take all possible aspects.
Thank you. I agree completely. We can't, and always be ready for your paradigm to be shot out from under you. You know,
yeah, it's happened to me a couple times.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, also here we go again. There's been a lot of, just to give due once again, like I said, what's due the different cultures. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church with Ethiopian Christians. You know, this is where we get, you know, they definitely adhere to the whole Enochian thing, so forth and so on. There was a 3rd century, let's see, what was it called? But there was a work in the 3rd century called The Conflict of Adam and Eve with Satan. The Conflict of Adam and Eve and Satan. And it says this here. This is from the 500 AD. It says, quote, certain wise men of old wrote concerning them and say in their sacred books, the angels came down from heaven and mingled with the daughters of Cain, who bore unto them these giants. But these wise men err in what they say. God forbid such a thing, that angels who are spirits should be found committing sin with human beings. Never, that cannot be. And if such a thing were of the nature of angels or Satans that fell, they would not leave one woman on earth undefiled. But many men say that angels came down from heaven, joined themselves to women, and had children by them. This cannot be true. But they were children of Seth, who were the children of Adam, who dwelt on the mountain, high up, while they preserved their virginity, their innocence and their glory, like angels, and were called the angels of God. But when they transgressed and mingled with the children of Cain, and they begot children, ill-informed men said that the angels came down from heaven and mingled with the daughters of men, who bare them giants. And so, once again, here we get into this idea that takes you into the whole sons of Cain thing, that there is a bad blood on this. You know what I mean? There's some bad blood on this earth, man. Don't go down there mingling with those primitives. You can't do that. So, once again, man, it was very, very, very interesting if we look at all that. And it's not like I said, in mythology, it's not like you. Now, we have to say, in the Christian and the Judaic belief, you notice that there is never, well, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, you notice that there is never this idea that there's not a woman spiritual being comes down and gets it on with a man.
Right.
But there is in mythology, if you want to call it that, say of the Greeks, was not Achilles, if I'm not mistaken. I think his father was human. Hercules, I believe. No, his father was Zeus. But over and over again, it's that mythology that keeps playing into it. And I say with my research, looking at these secret societies, are we looking at symbolism? Are we looking at symbolism? You know, the gods and the goddesses, the doctrines, and that the doctrine is stored in, and where the doctrine takes place. That doctrine, the god, Osiris and Isis, the doctrine, the lodge. So what is it if we look at a human? If it's a god and a human, the doctrine and what are we? I'm just saying, you know, what comes out of that? It's an interesting. I'm not even saying I've researched into that and thought about what that could be. But even taking that farther, could we look into that and see, you know, what is the human female aspect of it? But then again, Isis and Osiris are depicted as humans, basically, in a lot of the mythology about them.
Yeah, they're big in that.
They always tear that doctrine apart, man. Always tear it apart. Nimrod, Osiris, Bacchus, they just tear it apart. Then it's left. You got to find that one piece of it, and it's left for that female to put it all back together again. She puts Humpty Dumpty back together again. Even child stories tell us about it.
Do you think that's where that saying came? Behind every good man, there's a good woman.
I believe that's true. No, I believe that's true. I believe that when people are married and they have a good marriage, there's a certain, or a good relationship, I believe there's a certain something that ensues that gives a little bit more strength to both of them, to tell you the truth. So I just think that's normal. I think that's normal. But I do think that we can find within the mystery schools, within the fallen angel theory, within a lot of stuff that's written about those, I think we can find some allegory. Now, is it all allegory? That's the thing. Is it all allegory? And that's where the research should be done. And possibly we'll never know. Possibly we'll never know, because in this day and time of internet, who knows? There are so many big pictures. Oh, look at the big skeleton bone. It's like, gosh. And then you find out it's a Photoshop. Anybody that does Photoshop can do a few layers and everything and see the cuts and pinches and tucks.
That's what I was going to
tell real quick.
I was going to say that earlier, that pretty soon we will not even be able to believe our eyes, because there are things coming that they're just going to be able to augment reality in such a way that you think something happened when it didn't. They have that technology.
One of my friends on a social network posted something today. They just posted simply the ad, the link to the ad, and he put above it, he said, "Need a job?" And it was Army psyops. It was Army psyops looking, So that's, and what do? They talked about going and disseminating. I think the whole thing talked about disseminating information and controlling the media and other nations. It made it sound exciting. You get to be James Bond.
Right.
You get to be John D, man. You can do magic. You can do all those things. So technology really is their magic. If you examine it and look at it nowadays, technology is going to be their magic. Think about what they can do with holograms now. I've heard people talk about Project Bluebeam. I like to see the evolution of the technology that they put in front of people, stack a few decades on top of it. And gosh, you could have some guy running down the street in some uniform, but it looked like a hologram of somebody that's about 10 feet tall.
You could have an alien invasion look so real that it would convince everybody there are aliens.
Yeah. It'd make the
That's what I'm talking about.
It'd make the War of the Worlds broadcast look like a hiccup.
Right. I don't know when that's going to happen, when it's going to be that well designed.
But is that what they need? I think there's so many scenarios, John. Is that what they need? Do they need that? Or would it be better to have a small nuclear exchange? Could that really scare people into, into accepting their big new world order?
There's more cleanup on the nuclear exchange, though. You understand?
I know, but
that's
people are, but either way, there are so many scared people in society. People going, all those bullets are bad. All those bullets are bad. It's like, no, let me tell you what's bad. Idiots. That's what's bad, an idiot. And an idiot probably really shouldn't have a bullet. And I'm sorry, people say you would, when I'm talking about an idiot, I'm talking about somebody that's got some serious mental problems. So whether we want to call these things false flags or actually the shootings really happened, either way, what you had at the base of it, whether it was something that was manipulated or something that was real, you have an idiot. You have a psychotic idiot. Either way. So we're supposed to give up weapons because of psychotic idiots.
Right.
Whether it's a psychotic idiot in the government, with the conspiracy of taking away guns, that's not a conspiracy. They're constantly trying to slowly drain the ammunition pile. Or whether
little by little. Yes.
Or whether it's the whole thing with this, if these little nut, and they always depict, whether, like I said, if it's real, they depict these, they show these guys, they're nutcases. You remember these guys in high school, man. You knew something was going to go wrong. They weren't even part of the crowd of goth people. I don't know. We didn't have goth people years ago when I was in school, but they weren't even part of, I guess we did, but not that much. They weren't even part of that crowd where there was actually a crowd to that person by themselves. And they never want to hang out. You know what I'm talking about? They're real. And I'm not saying everybody like that's a nutcase at all. Some people just like being by themselves. But you know which one I'm talking about. That guy, you look at, you say, something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with him one day. He's going to end up, I remember a guy I went to school with. There were two of them, and both of them, They were nuts. You could look at them and you could tell that the wheels either were spinning too fast or there was a wheel missing. But 8 years after high school, both of them, one of them's in jail and the other one's in jail for and the other one's dead because he was killed by the one in jail. So, but you knew something's wrong. Something's wrong with these people. Something's not right. Now we have a media that grasp onto this. It's I'm not going to say it's a confusing situation, but whichever way it turns out, whether it is a psyop, a false flag, or whether it's someone actually going in on their own volition and just blasting away at people. You got nutcases on either side that want to use this as a way to take control. And the bad thing is you got those on the side that don't want the control taken, that resort to all kind of crazy stuff to poo-poo the ones on the other side. We got to have a common sense conversation, man. That's really what it boils down to. And it seems that those that want to take on the right side and the left side, they've lost every bit of common sense that they could possibly ever have, that they could ever have in a conversation. It's gone. You're part of two drone groups that say my side, your side, my side, your side. And in the end, it's a whole Hegelian dialectic. You both end up in the middle where you don't want to be, because it's not that middle of compromise. It's that already compromised middle. So,
right, you're brought to that middle, not to the one you might have decided, but you're brought to the middle. That's
yes,
for sure.
Indeed. So if by these Jewish philosophers and stuff back in, the 100s AD, 600 AD, going by what they're saying, these are men. These are men. These fallen ones are men. They are the ones that follow each other. They are the sons of nobles, sons of rulers. They were giants because of that. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying so much. There's a lot of research that still needs to be done into this, but we don't have science.
Not today.
Let's start off the show the way we end off the show the way we started it. The whole idea that when technology, that article I saw, when technology becomes religion, science becomes God.
Yep.
There should never be an end-all, be-all. That's the lesson, man. There should never be an end-all, be-all, because that's the goal of the whole dualistic Hegelian concept. You need an end-all, be-all. This is the way it has to be. This is the way it has to be. Both sides want it the way it has to be, so that's the way it goes, man. Mr. LeBang, thanks for joining me today.
No problem, Robert. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. And guys, make sure and tune in tomorrow. I believe it'll be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on truthfrequencyradio.com with Waking Up the Masses. Don't forget, coming up next, you have the Kev Baker Show. Right after that, you have Freedom Link with Joe Joseph. Hang in there. We'll see you.